My name is David Corrigan. I'm 42 years old, and I am a digital forensics and security consultant for multinational corporations. My specialty is penetration testing, not the kind with locks and picks, but the kind that finds the single unpatched vulnerability in a multi-million-dollar firewall, the human element. I discovered my wife's affair on Tuesday, October 12th, at 3:14 p.m. I was in my home office, the one I built with reclaimed barnwood and a silent, over-engineered cooling system for my servers. The discovery wasn't a gut punch. It was a system alert. A single line item in a Quicken file I maintained for our joint savings account, an account I hadn't physically deposited a check into in over 5 years. A deposit of $75,000 dated September 28th from an entity listed as Apex Holdings, LLC. The memo line read, "Consultation." The sun was hitting the maple of my desk, and the wood grain looked like the fissures of a coming earthquake. I felt a profound, chilling stillness. The hunt was on. I met Sarah when I was 30 at a wedding in Napa. She was a force of nature in an emerald green dress. She didn't just spill champagne on me. She did it with a kind of triumphant accident, as if claiming territory. "Well," she'd said, dabbing at my sleeve with a napkin, her eyes locked on mine, "I guess you're stuck with me until it dries." We fell in love not like a slow burn, but like a controlled demolition of our previous lives. Everything that wasn't us was cleared away to make space. I proposed after 18 months on the summit of Eagles Peak at 5:17 a.m., just as the sun crested the ridge. The ring was a 2-carat emerald-cut diamond in a platinum setting from a jeweler in the Diamond District. It cost $18,750. I remember the weight of the box in my pocket felt like the weight of my entire future. Our wedding, 2 years later, was an $89,000 production at a Sonoma vineyard. Sarah managed it all with a color-coded spreadsheet. Gab 1, venue and catering, $42,000. Tab 2, photography and videography, $12,000. Tab 3, florals, $8,500. She was a brilliant analyst. I loved her precision. I found comfort in the logic of her systems. The first 5 years were a golden age. We bought this 3-bedroom Craftsman. We had Chloe. I built the treehouse in the backyard, the one with the copper roof that turns green. Sarah planted a rose garden. The data of our life was clean, positive, and predictable. The anomalies began as minor statistical noise. A late work meeting on Tuesday, October 3rd of the previous year, that ran until 8:47 p.m. Her phone log showed no calls to or from her office after 5:15 p.m. A new, sudden interest in hot yoga, resulting in a body that became harder, more defined, and a wardrobe that shifted from J.Crew comfort to the architectural lines of Theory and Veronica Beard. Her iPhone, which had always charged on the nightstand on my side of the bed, now went with her to the bathroom for 20-minute intervals. The passcode, which had been 0615, our anniversary, no longer worked. When I asked, she said, "The compliance department mandated biometrics and a new, complex alphanumeric passcode. You, of all people, should understand UPSEC, David." She used the jargon of my profession as a shield. It was a masterstroke. The vector of our destruction was named Julian Thorne, 38. Founding partner of Apex Ventures. Sarah introduced him at a summer barbecue I was hosting for my team. He arrived in a vintage Porsche 911 Targa, not flashy, but quietly asserting a specific tax bracket. He was the one who didn't try too hard. He complimented my smoker, knew his way around a craft IPA, and spoke to my junior analysts about their projects with genuine interest. He was, in a word, seamless. Sarah presented him as her corporate guardian angel. She'd been struggling with a hostile takeover bid on a client's portfolio, and Julian, a friend of a friend from her boss, had swooped in with a brilliant counter-strategy. "He saved my bacon, David," she'd said, beaming. He started coming around more. He came to Chloe's 7th birthday party, bringing an absurdly expensive, professionally crafted dollhouse. I remember feeling a pang of gratitude. My wife had a powerful ally in her corner. But as Julian's presence in our life grew, Sarah's emotional bandwidth for me shrank. Our conversations became logistical briefings. Who was picking up Chloe? What was for dinner? Had the mortgage been paid? The light in her eyes, the one that used to ignite for me, was now reserved for the glow of her phone screen. Yet the material framework of our life remained, even expanded. She began talking about a kitchen renovation, $60,000. She pinned photos of a Botswana safari on our shared Pinterest board, a trip I later priced at $43,000. She was building a new life, and she was still using our shared accounts to fund the blueprint. On October 12th, after seeing the consultation deposit, I felt no heat, no rage. I felt the cool, focused calm of a pilot switching to manual override after an autopilot failure. My home was now a hostile network, and I was tasked with finding the rootkit. Phase 1. Network Traffic Analysis. My custom-configured Cisco Meraki router kept deep packet inspection logs. I mapped the IP and MAC address of Sarah's iPhone against her stated location for the past 90 days. On 7 separate occasions, when her calendar said working late, office, her phone's Wi-Fi had disconnected from our home network, and its subsequent cellular pings placed it on a vector to a cell tower with ID SF-PH-07B, which services the Pacific Heights neighborhood, not the financial district. Using triangulation data from 2 other towers, I pinpointed the most probable location: the Orion Towers, a luxury high-rise on Jackson Street.
Phase 2. Physical surveillance. I needed visual confirmation. I have an old friend, Marcus, a former DIA operative who now runs a private security firm. For a favor I'll someday have to repay, he provided a discrete asset. For 2 days, the asset conducted stationary surveillance. On the 2nd day, at 7:02 p.m., he sent a burst of photographs. Sarah, in the navy blue Veronica beard blouse I'd bought her for her birthday, walking into the Orion Towers. She was not carrying her work laptop bag. She was carrying a small overnight duffel I'd never seen before. Phase 3. Financial forensics. The $75,000 from Apex Holdings was the key. I have a contact, let's call him Arthur, in the Financial Crimes Unit. A completely off-the-books query revealed that Apex Holdings LLC was registered in Delaware, with a single managing member, Julian Thorne. Its primary business address was a virtual office in San Francisco. It had no other employees, no publicly listed clients. It was a ghost. Phase 4. The device. This was the core of the operation. Sarah's use of Signal was a problem, but she was lazy with OPSEC. She still backed up her iPhone to our family iCloud. While the backup wouldn't include the content of the Signal messages, it did include a rich notification log. Using Cellebrite UFED Premium, I performed a logical extraction of her phone's backup. I was able to recover the preview text for every notification that had ever appeared on her lock screen, even for messages subsequently deleted. The fragments were like pieces of a shrapnel bomb. September 28th, 10:14 a.m. Julian, the $75K is in your account for your Freedom Fund. October 5th, 11:23 p.m. Sarah, he's in his office, oblivious. I wish I was in 712 with you right now. October 10th, 8:15 a.m. Julian, did you get the documents from his safe? The last one stopped me cold. The documents from his safe. The Freedom Fund was for her life after me, but the request for documents pointed to a deeper, more insidious plot. I cross-referenced everything. I found the negligee. A deleted email receipt from Ted Baker, dated August 17th, a black lace-trimmed camise, size small, price $425. It was shipped to S. Thorne at the Orion Towers, Unit 712. S. Thorne. She was already using his name. I found the dinner. The team-building retreat in Santa Rosa on September 15th was a lie. Our shared American Express card showed a $347.18 charge at the French Laundry. I social engineered the hostess's restaurant, posing as Julian's assistant, confirming a business expense, and obtained a copy of the receipt. Table for two, a 2014 Domaine Le Fleuve Pumigny Montrachet. They drank a $250 bottle of white burgundy while I was putting Chloe to bed, reading her Goodnight Moon.
But the documents? What documents? My home safe contained our passports, Chloe's birth certificate, the deed to the house, and the hard copy backups of my most sensitive work. The security architecture and penetration test results for a pre-IPO tech company called OmniViz. That project was under a strict NDA. The intellectual property within it was valued in the tens of millions. 6 months ago, Sarah had asked me to look over a hypothetical business plan for a friend's startup. I'd given her a 10-page, brutally honest teardown of its financial projections and, crucially, had pointed out 3 critical, unpatchable security flaws in its proposed data infrastructure. That friend was Julian. That startup was a direct competitor to OmniViz. The $75,000 wasn't for Sarah. It was a payment for my own analysis. The condition for the money was my professional suicide delivered by my wife. I needed to understand the full scope of Julian's desperation. I turned my entire skill set against him. I created a honeypot. I set up a fake tech startup, Nexus Predictive, with a sleek website and a LinkedIn profile for its founder, a persona I controlled. I had him connect with a junior analyst at Apex Ventures, a bright, ambitious kid named Ben. Over 3 weeks of encrypted chats, Ben revealed that Apex was on the brink. They had a $45 million capital call due in 60 days, and their lead investor, a Swiss firm, was getting cold feet. Julian's entire reputation was riding on one massive, desperate bet, a short sell position on OmniViz, predicated on the company having a catastrophic public data breach right before its IPO. My stolen analysis of OmniViz's vulnerabilities was the blueprint for that bet. He was going to leak the flaws to a hacker collective, trigger the breach, and make a fortune on the collapse. He wasn't just stealing from me, he was planning to burn an entire company to the ground and salt the earth. Sarah was his unwitting, or perhaps witting, accomplice. In a recovered text to her sister, she wrote, "Jay says once this Omni thing plays out, we'll be set for life. It's a bit ruthless, but it's just business. David was never bold enough for this kind of play." She saw my integrity as a lack of ambition. For 127 days, I lived a double life. By day, I was David Corrigan, husband, father, consultant. By night, I was the silent archivist of my own betrayal. I installed a Vagger, voice-activated audio recorder in the driver's side footwell of her Lexus. The audio quality was crystal clear. I have recordings of her singing along to the radio on her way to see him. I have recordings of her phone calls with him, planning their liaisons. "He's working late tonight," she'd say, her voice a parody of a conspiratorial lover. "The door is open. I'll be waiting." I cataloged it all. Visit number 17 to Unit 712. Duration, 2 hours, 4 minutes. I used a GPS tracker magnetically sealed to the chassis of her car. I have the maps. I have the timestamps. I have the log showing her car parked in the underground garage of the Orion Towers for exactly 1 hour and 58 minutes on a Wednesday she claimed to be at a dental cleaning.
I hired Marcus's team for the final 3 weeks. They provided the visual evidence. High-resolution photographs from a van across the street. Sarah and Julian on his balcony, her wearing his dress shirt, him with his arm around her. A video shot with a long lens of them at a corner table in a dimly lit bar, his hand on her knee, her head thrown back in laughter, a laugh I hadn't heard in years. The dossier grew. It was no longer a report, it was an epoch. 412 pages of evidence, a chronology of deceit supported by satellite imagery, financial audit trails, and forensic data extractions. It was unassailable. The confrontation was not a scene from a movie. It was a board meeting. I called her into my office on the evening of December 18th. The treehouse was visible through the window, silhouetted against the twilight. On my desk were 2 black binders and a single USB drive. "Sarah," I said, my voice flat, the way I speak to clients when presenting a post-breach analysis. "Please sit." I opened the first binder. "This is a summary of my findings into your relationship with Julian Thorne and your activities as an accessory to the theft of intellectual property." I slid it toward her. I watched her eyes scan the first page, a log of her visits to the Orion Towers, then the photo of her on the balcony. Her face went from confusion to recognition to sheer, unadulterated terror. She tried to speak, but only a choked gasp came out. "I'm not here to argue," I continued. "The data is the data. It is factual and complete." I tapped the USB drive. "The full forensic report is here. Audio, video, financials. Everything." I then opened the second binder. "This is your future. It contains a divorce settlement. You waive all rights to alimony. You agree to shared custody with me as the primary residential parent, given the evidence of your moral unfitness and entanglement in a criminal conspiracy. You will also sign this non-disclosure agreement." You're destroying me," she whispered. "No," I said, my voice still calm. "You did that. I am simply documenting the collapse. Furthermore, as of 9 a.m. this morning, a comprehensive packet of evidence detailing Julian Thorne's attempt to manipulate the market through stolen IP was delivered to the SEC, the FBI's white-collar crime division, and the lead investors at Apex Ventures. His capital call is in the morning. I don't like his odds." The silence in the room was absolute. I had not raised my voice once. The aftermath was a study in dominoes falling. Sarah signed the papers. She moved into a cramped apartment in a neighborhood she once described as quaint, which was her polite word for beneath us. The friends we shared, the couples we vacationed with, they all chose sides. The evidence was too damning. She became a social pariah, a cautionary tale.
Julian Thorne's world evaporated. The Swiss investors pulled their $45 million instantly. The SEC froze his assets and opened a formal investigation. The board of Apex Ventures voted him out by acclamation. He was served with half a dozen lawsuits, including one from Omnivis for attempted corporate sabotage. The last I heard from Marcus's network was that he declared personal bankruptcy and was living in his sister's basement in Connecticut. The Porsche was repossessed. The house is truly mine now. The silence, which once would have felt like emptiness, now feels like peace. Chloe lives with me. Our relationship has become the central pillar of my life. We have Taco Tuesdays. I help her with her science projects on cryptography. We sit in the treehouse and talk about constellations. The rose garden has grown wild, but I don't have the heart to tear it out. It's a reminder that even beautiful things can have deep, tangled roots. My business, Corrigan Security, saw a 30% increase in high-value contracts the following quarter. The word in certain circles was that I was the man who quietly dismantled Apex Ventures. In my world, that kind of reputation is better than any advertisement. This wasn't revenge. Revenge is emotional. This was justice. Justice is a mathematical equation. It requires proof. It requires patience. I learned that the cost of betrayal is not paid in a single dramatic moment, but in 1,000 small debits. A deleted text, a GPS ping, a financial anomaly, until the account is irrevocably overdrawn. I was merely the accountant. If you found this story of forensic justice compelling, hit the like button, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe for more deep dives into the consequences of betrayal.